Hi guys, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Yvonne Princess Shabangu. If you are new here, you're welcome to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And voila, you're part of the graceful, the beautiful, and the wonderful family. We are back with another video, and this time it's a book review. We are booked and busy, and this I can't say this month, the past week and a half, we were reading Na Keep Your Strength by Sihle N, and it's such a beautiful book. I'd highly recommend that everybody buys this book. You know, if you are if you're a person who wants to confront certain things, if you're a person who wants to heal yourself, this is the book that you need to get, and this is a starting point. It's a voice that every black female or every disadvantaged person needs for their starting point of their healing, you know. Anyway, you guys know the drill. We're going to go into the books. I'm going to share my views on certain chapters, but I really enjoyed this book. I'll give it a solid 11 out of 10 because it's an amazing book, so relatable. Sihle N is such a funny lady, like very funny, relatable, wise, you know. She's not talking about things that are far-fetched. These are like relatable stuff, which is why I love it when people write books. I struggle to read fiction, right? Because I'm just like, it's not relatable. But I love it when I read books that are based on a real, true life story, or also they're based on lived out experiences. I really enjoy that. So we're going to go into it. So firstly, I got this book from my mentor, guys. So she was supposed to be my mentor. She became my sister. Like, I'm so bad with mentors because I end up overstepping. Anyway, so the starting point of this book speaks to healing. So many other times we avoid healing or we delay healing because we think healing ourselves means it didn't happen, or forgiving ourselves or forgiving the next person means it didn't happen. So forgiveness or healing, your healing journey, so let's start with your healing journey. Your healing journey, allowing yourself to evolve, allowing yourself to let go, doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean the damage wasn't caused. It doesn't mean the damage did not occur. It doesn't mean the pain and the suffering did not occur. It simply means that you value yourself enough to let go of the burden, because many of the time things that hurt us, people that hurt us, they move on, but we are left with that burden of carrying it, like of that we're left with that burden of saying, oh, they hurt me, they did me dirty and all of that. So it's always important, allow yourself to feel, be angry, be mad as much as you need to, but it's important that you let go. It's important that you heal, you know. And also always ask yourself, why am I so angry about this thing? Is it because the thing is just wrong, or is it because I have internal issues that I haven't dealt with, you know? So yeah, she says something along the lines of, it is said that healing does not mean that damage never existed, but rather that the damage no longer controls our lives. That's the thing. We don't realize unforgiveness, hoarding pain and holding on to pain actually controls you. It actually manifests in everything that you do. You realize that when you have these grudges, when you have these issues that you're carrying, you do things a certain way, you're responsive in a certain way. Like, I mean, many of the times we don't realize it, but people around us will tell us, oh no, you know, I realized at a certain season you were just an angry person, you were irritable, you were this or that, or you responded a certain way, and you realize that all you needed to do was just to let go. So it's important that you give yourself a chance, you know, and it doesn't invalidate that you were hurt. It doesn't invalidate that they did you wrong, but just allow yourself to feel and allow yourself to let go, right? And secondly, forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean you have to keep that thing or keep those people. Sometimes forgiveness is acknowledging that you did me wrong, it hurt my feelings, and I was down bad, but it's okay. Life goes on. Bye, Felicia. That's what it means sometimes. Doesn't mean you have to keep the Felicia. Because many of the times we think forgiving people means we have to keep them in our lives. No, that's not what it means. Yes, and then another thing she talks about an incident whereby so her home where she grew up was burnt, like it was bombed actually, like at least 2 times, and she was a baby and she didn't know, like it's like she didn't see because she was small, but also because how trauma, like it's like trauma stay, I don't know, I don't want to say it stays on your skin, it stays on your soul, it stays on your inner man, it stays inside your soul. That's the thing about trauma. Sometimes, like, it's how do I put this? Like, you know, trauma, it's easy to think, oh no, you didn't see this, but something that you hear can actually traumatize you, or something that you see, but years have gone by, it can still impact you one way or another. Because most of the times we don't recognize that actually I'm hurting. We don't recognize that we do things a certain way because of how we were. So she talks about the incident where her home was was bombed down twice, right? And it was burnt down, and then she was a baby, and then at some point, because of that trauma response, you know, when her mother would put her to bed while she was still awake, she would cry non-stop, right? But the mom had to wait for her to actually be asleep, and then she'll be able to put her to bed. And then she's like, also this trauma manifested in her life as an adult because she's very concerned about safety. Like, she's an overly conscious person when it comes to safety. Like, I must know you are safe, I must know that I am safe. Like, she loves feeling safe. And yes, it's a good thing, but she recognized that that whole need for safety comes from the fact that at some point she felt a sense of unsafety. At some point she was unsafe, right? There's a note I wrote here. It says, the most dangerous thing about trauma is that in some cases we can't identify it. It comes up in our behavioral traits. It's important to constantly reflect and figure out why we do certain things a certain way. Yes, this was one of my biggest lessons actually from the book throughout, because she like, I need you guys to buy this book. Bottom line, I need you guys to buy this book, right? But she talks about a lot of different traumas, how they impacted her differently, and how they showed up and how she related to people, how they showed up in how she tolerated certain things, how they showed up in how she related with other people, and how she did certain things, and how she made choices and decisions and all of those things. So it's a very, very, very important that you're a reflective person. Reflect, why do I get angry when somebody bangs the door? Is there such a noise in my life that actually traumatized me? Why do I feel the need to shout? You know, why am I so scared of certain things? Ask yourself those questions. It's very important that you understand your behavioral traits. It's very important that you understand why, like, certain things happen a certain way, because all our behavioral traits, our fears, our anxieties, our decisions, our choices, they stem from something, and usually it's how we were raised. Usually it's our upbringing. So it's important that you reflect and you fix what you need to fix, because what I love about this life is that in as much as we were hurt, in as much as we were damaged, in as much as we were broken, there's still room for us to fix ourselves. There's still room for us to attend therapy. Some people tell you that therapy is gym. Some people will tell you that therapy is journaling. But do something to fix yourself, because when you don't fix yourself, you bleed on other people. When you don't fix yourself, you extend the damage. You actually damage other people and you damage yourself further. So you don't do yourself any favor when you avoid issues, or when you avoid healing. Healing is important, not just for the next person, but for you, for your growth, for you to explore your best self, for you to become the best version of yourself, for you to explore your abilities. You'd realize that many people tell you, at some point I was heavy in grief or in pain, and I was holding grudges. I couldn't be as creative. I know with creatives, when you are most creative when your mind is at peace. People will tell you they're most creative maybe when they are traveling, when they're in a different country, or when they are at the beach, or when they're in nature, and when their mind is still. So whenever you're not forgiving yourself, whenever you're not letting things go, whenever you're not healing, you impact yourself more, because you're stunting your level of capacity or productivity. I can speak for myself. I know when I'm hurting, like when I have things that I'm holding on to inside of me, there are certain things I'm still holding on to. I'm working on healing those things. I'm going to therapy soon, so I'm going to tell you guys about it as well. So there's certain things I'm holding on to from the past, and I'm realizing how they impact me, and I'm realizing how they make me relate with other people. But also there's certain things I've decided to let go, and I realized as I let go, my mind becomes free. My mind, like, my intellectual capacity increases. Like, I want to know more, I want to learn, my wisdom stays, you know. So don't occupy yourself or your soul or your mind with garbage or damage. And I am not invalidating you and saying it didn't happen or it won't hurt. Every feeling is valid. You are supposed to cry. You are supposed to feel. I love how, also, like, how I pick my books, guys. I feel like my books are spiritually chosen. Like, it's like the Holy Spirit comes and says, hey, listen, we are reading this right now, you know. Because one thing I can tell you, I feel like it was a great start for me to read the subtitle of not giving an you know the word, the subtitle of not giving an F. So when I read it, it spoke a lot about emotions. It spoke a lot about dealing with yourself, confronting yourself. And when I ventured into this, when I ventured into what I know for sure, it's like these books are like, it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. It's like I'm on this journey, I'm on this healing journey, and it's so helpful, right? So it's very, very important that you allow yourself to feel every feeling that you need to feel, but don't stay there. Don't give those feelings the satisfaction that they control you. You're allowed to feel, you're allowed to express yourself. Every feeling is important, right? But don't let any feeling control you. Whether it's happiness, whether it's anger, whether it's joy, you have to be in control of your feelings, because the moment you let your feelings control you, you may not be able to function at your best capability, right? And then also she talks about how she lost her granddad. You know, it's so funny how, like, also in the beginning of the year I was reading on death, and you know how it impacts us, and you know what happens to us when we die and all of that. And this is from a Christian perspective. I wouldn't know about other people, right? And also many things I picked up as I was learning about death is that a lot of strange things happen when a person is about to die. People always tend to know, especially the elders. The elders usually know when it's time up. So she talks about how her granddad was like to her, please escort me to the store, come with me to the store, come with me to the shops in town. And she was like, oh my God, it was hot. She was having a good time with her friends, and she was just like, you know what, no, I'm not gonna come with you. And then the granddad asked her, what should I bring you? And then and then she was like, you can bring me sweets, and all of that. The all sorts sweets. Let me see. Yeah, she was like, you can bring me sweets, right? And then yeah, the granddad brought her sweets, and then she's like, the next morning the granddad passed on, and she's like, she didn't mourn, she didn't grieve, like she was just numb, you know. And it's and one of the questions I wanted to ask her, and she later answered in the book, was, did you ever regret not going? Did you ever think what would have happened? What would have been the last conversation you had with your granddad? But she did answer that there were times where she regretted not going to the shops with the granddad. And I feel like for me, this was another learning curve to say, you know what, spend quality time with those that you love, people that are meaningful to you. Do the things that mean something to you. Don't involve yourself in things that you don't care about, in things that you don't believe in. Involve yourself in things you believe in things that are meaningful, and spend quality time with your loved ones. Tell them you love them. Share whatever you have, share your emotions, share your thoughts, and just love them. Love one another, because you never really know when death is going to happen. You know, it just comes unexpected. And then oh guys, I thoroughly enjoy this. And then so, and then she spoke about how her grandmom was bullied at school. And then when she spoke about that, it actually touched my heart. It was so relatable how, you know, we can look at bullying as a very simple thing, but bullying still happens. And when I looked at it, I'm like, bullying was there in 1962. In 1970s, there was bullying in school, and it's a thing. And you know, I noted something, that when we enable circles of not fixing things, they continue into the next generation. Bullying is still a thing because it was not tackled. We are still oppressed by the system because we simply allow it to a certain extent. So it's always important, guys, when certain things are not done properly, let's learn to call them out. And I love how Sihle's book is, it touches on everything, man. It's very honest, it's very compassionate, it's very kind, it's very funny, it's very relatable, right? So it's important that we tackle certain things in life, because trust me, guys, things that we don't deal with today, they are going to haunt us tomorrow. Things that we don't deal with today, they are going to fetch us tomorrow. They are going to affect our children. They are going to affect those that come after us, you know. So it's important that we it's very important that we thingy. It's very important that we fix what we need to fix. If you identify an issue, don't enable it. Do not participate in things that are detrimental to society as a at large. You know, I know some people say, even if I do it, what difference is it gonna make? It is gonna make a difference. Imagine if all of us thought, actually, let me just make a difference. The whole world will be a better place. So it's important that we are a generation that, when you know better, do better, guys. Don't just know better and not apply. Don't just know better and not do better, right? So it's important that you do what needs to be done. And also, I love how this book it shows us that many of us as black people, particularly black people, guys, we're the same. I've read books from Cicely Tyson, Viola Davis, and our upbringing is the same. It's broken and beautiful at the same time. I don't know, it's a cliche or something, but it's always like the damage is similar, and it tells you that black young females or black females all over the world are facing similar traumas in different places in different ways. Like, because when I look at all these books that I've read, especially autobiographies, it's like the same abuses in America were happening in South Africa, the same abuses in Kenya were happening in South Africa, and it's like we've endured so much pain and suffering as a black people, as a black nation, you know, and it's saddening, man. It's very saddening, and I pray that we are a different generation. If anything, I pray that we get rid of these traditions that enable us being abused, enable us being enslaved, and all of that, and we start looking at traditions and habits that actually make us better people, you know, traditions and habits that actually help us do better and become better, you know. And also so she talks about how her grandmother used to tell her how beautiful she is. She used to be so beautiful, but also she's like, her grandmother, every time before she stepped out, her grandmother would look at what she's wearing from head to toe. Like, she would scan her to make sure that she looks neat and she looks good, right? In as much as that was a good thing, but also it impacted her, how she viewed herself. She became so self-conscious. Okay, how do I look? Is my body in the perfect weight? Is this happening to me? And for me also, this was a learning curve, because many other times, sometimes we think we're doing good, but we're actually doing damage. And also it showed me that a good thing can actually become a bad thing, because I mean her grandmother obviously didn't mean, her grandmother didn't mean any harm, right? Her grandmother was just making sure that everything is in order. You look neat, you look a certain way, you dress nicely, you have everything you need. But also it's like, you are scanning me every single day, you're subjecting me to that mental state that there's a possibility of an imperfection on me, you know. And so she said it affected her over the years, but obviously she had to deal with it at some point. And then she said back then, so now she's obviously, she's now in thingy, she's now in her 40s, right? And then she says in her 20s and earlier 30s, she realized that actually, you know what, I'm perfect as I am. And I feel like this is probably a word for me and many of you that are on this channel, to say you're perfect as you are. You know, it's important to understand that. Look at yourself and say, I am beautiful. I've got beautiful eyes. I've got big cheeks, but I love them as they are. I'm dark skinned, but I'm beautiful as I am. I am perfect just the way I am. It's important to have that in your mind. And once you tell yourself that you are perfect as you are, or realize that and plant it in your heart, guys, no one can tell you you're ugly and you flinch. No one can tell you you're ugly and you are touched, you know. The moment a person calls you ugly, you're able to put them in your place. But if you have identity issues, if you also don't feel beautiful, then it makes it worse. You know, it doesn't even help. So accept who you are. Realize that you are perfect. You're beautiful. You're gorgeous. You're amazing. Just the way you are, you know. And so, and then she says something along the lines of, I would partially believe them because the words and voices my ears had in my younger years influenced my mind perceived in the mirror, which controlled what my eyes saw and how I felt about myself, right? So also this touched my heart, because things said, like when people make remarks about us, about our weight, about our looks, about our skin tone, about our complexion. When people make those remarks, they don't realize the damage that they do on us, right? Because many other times when a person says a certain thing, if you don't have a firm foundation or a firm belief that you're beautiful, it damages you. It changes how you see yourself in the mirror. You end up looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing an ugly person. You end up looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing a fat person, even though you're not fat, even though you're not ugly. I mean, when it's all said and done, what is ugly, conche? You know? So, yeah. And for me, my takeout was the voices that we listen to are important because they impact us more than we can think of. As a voice, it is important. Oh, also as a voice. Oh, I love this. Sometimes I write things and I don't realize, oh my God, you know what? I can be wise. As a voice, it is also important how we speak to others, as we may be the voice that changes them for the best or worse. So there's voices that you listen to, but you're also a voice to somebody else. So it's important how you speak to other people. It's important how you speak to yourself. And you know what? For me, a turning moment in my life when I started grieving the whole thing of speaking to myself nicely, speaking about other people nicely, was when I joined Speak Life September in 2021. It changed the narrative. I'd always speak nicely when it was convenient for me, but I started speaking nicely with other people about myself, whether angry, whether sad. But I learned that it's important that I am a voice that empowers, a voice that enables another person to become better, a voice that actually makes a person feel good about themselves. You know, I need to be that voice that allows people to take up space, that voice that allows people to see themselves as the best version that they can ever be. You know, not a voice that makes a person compare themselves, not a voice that makes a person feel bad about themselves. It's important that you're a voice that a person thinks of when they're down and out and their life is brightened when they think of your voice, right? And also, this is a food for thought. What type of a voice are you? What type of a voice are you? Are you empowering? If you're empowering, continue, keep it up. If you are that voice that is constantly discouraging other people, it's time that you change. You can't be that person for the rest of your life. It doesn't work. And then, you know, I also love what she says about women, right? It says, so she says, naturally, when we hear stories like hers, and she's shared a certain story, I'm not going to share it because you have to go buy a book, right? So she says, naturally, when we hear stories like her, how default it is to say she's so brave, she's so strong, what an amazing woman, she's so powerful. But do we actually consider what it says about our society when women have to risk their life to stand up for what is right? And guys, here's another thing. We're constantly saying, oh my God, people are strong, people are brave. Guys, no, women are soft, women are human. You're not a rock, you know? And for me, like, it was a turning point to say, there's certain things you shouldn't have to go through. I shouldn't have to be underpaid at work. I shouldn't have to go through that. Nothing about that screams I'm strong if I'm fighting for myself to be paid the appropriate wage at work. I shouldn't have to go through that. I shouldn't have to fight for an opportunity. I shouldn't have to fight for a leadership position if I'm qualified. I shouldn't have to go through that. But because I'm a woman, I go through that. And when I win, I'm called strong. I'm called powerful. And you realize that these things are not even embodying the beauty of the power that I carry or the beauty of the braveness that I carry, but it's a thing of I've endured so much pain, struggle, and suffering. That is why I'm called strong. That is why I'm called powerful. I don't want to be called powerful because I'm going through it all, because I'm going through the most, because I'm being oppressed and because I'm being this. No, I want to be resilient because it's the right thing to do. I shouldn't be forced or oppressed by society or community for me to be powerful. You know, there's certain things that women shouldn't have to go through, guys. I really feel like as a community and as a people, we really need to do better. We really need to do better, honestly speaking. We shouldn't have to be fighting and discussing why you're not paying me equally the same as a male who's doing the same job, and I'm likely to be doing a better job, but I'm being paid less. I shouldn't have to have those conversations. And it's crazy when we start having those conversations, you hear people say, oh my God, Yvonne is brave. Oh my God, Yvonne is outspoken. Oh my God, Yvonne is this. I shouldn't have to go through all of that. In a correct system, in an ideal world, I shouldn't have to fight for what I deserve. I shouldn't have to fight for a salary I'm working for. I'm qualified. I do my job well. Why am I fighting to get paid a good salary. For me, it doesn't make sense. And you find that the society applauds that, you know, oh my God, she's strong because she fought for her wages. We shouldn't have to go through that. We shouldn't have to. And then, you know, people want to call you imbokoto because, oh my God, you survived gender-based violence, you survived abuse. Yes, it's a miracle that you survived that. We thank God that you survived, but we shouldn't have to go through that. We shouldn't be living in a society whereby we are afraid for our lives, whereby we constantly scared. We shouldn't have to live in a society like that. We shouldn't have to. Honestly speaking, we should not have to. Like, we shouldn't have to, guys. You know, yeah. And then she also describes how, like, her grandmother got a child when she was younger, and her mom got a child when she was young, and she got a child when she was young. And when she was explaining the cycle in detail, and it made me think hard, you know, to actually think that when certain things are not addressed, you know, because obviously back then people were not, they didn't have access to specialists, they didn't have access to things like confronting your feelings, being emotionally aware, being mentally aware, seeing therapists, seeing psychologists. They didn't have all of those things. So many things were swept under the bed. Many things were just avoided. And avoiding those things actually made it a repetitive cycle. So it's always important that certain things that happen in our generation that are not right, we make sure that we put a stop to it, and we make sure that we address those issues, and we find ways to actually do better, and we find ways to make it better for the generation that comes after us, right? So yeah, you know, yeah, generational cycles are a real thing, you know. So yo guys, if you really want to heal, like, I don't want to give it to you all, guys. Like, I want you guys to go buy this book, because if I nganiga gonke, I man, it won't be it. So so, and then also she talks a lot about her upbringing, how she was raised in a very strict home, and how her granddad was very strict. There's something that touched my heart, ne, where she was talking about where she was talking about where she was talking about how her granddad was very strict, and also at some point her mother confronted her granddad, and her granddad was like, that's the only way I knew how to discipline you. But shy, like, if you want to beat me, beat me. And for me, it showed me how, you know, I'm not excusing how certain parents or certain households were handled back then, right? But it shows you also how, if you're not going to take a step to heal yourself, guys, nobody will do it for you. Nobody, not even your mother, your father, whoever, people that hurt you will not heal yourself for you. Like, they will not do it, you know, because when he said that, he says, I'm sorry, but I mean, it is what it is. That's what I knew. And if we're being honest, he was right, but it doesn't justify that he went overboard on certain things, you know, in terms of beating them up, and this and that and that and all of that, right? And I mean, when you look at it back then, that was the way to discipline, but you realize that it impacts a person, you know. When they grow up sometimes thinking, okay, if a person does me wrong, I'm going to beat them up, you know, because that's another thing. The best way to teach a human being is by being, you know. Many other, I see it, like, even with my day-to-day, like, I drink tea so much, and I realized that this is something that I picked from my dad. My dad drinks tea quite a lot, he drinks coffee quite a lot, and like we now use that as our bonding session in the morning. But I've realized no one taught me, now it's time to drink tea. I've realized that I'm one of those people that when I'm angry I shout, and I get that a lot from my mom. Growing up, my mom was those people who shouted you. If you do something wrong, she shout. So it's like we pick up these things and we pick up these habits, and that's why it's important to evaluate yourself as a person. Sit down and ask yourself, what did I pick up from my parents? What did I pick up from my family? What is it that I want to bring into my new family, into my children? What is it that I want to get rid of? What is it that I don't want to have in my personal life and my personal space, you know? So it's very important that we face ourselves and be honest with ourselves, and be like, okay, sharp, this is what I've done, and this is where I come from, and this is how it impacts me as a person, and what can I do to do better? What can I do, you know, to do better? So and then another thing I noted, like, it was just a note I put for myself, is that our behavioral traits have a lot to do with our upbringing, whether good or bad. Guys, it's very important. You know, one of my biggest things, like, I'm sure God is always looking up on me like, oh, I'm so proud of you. One of my biggest things, I want to be the best mom there's ever been, whatever that means. You know, I want to raise a warm family, and I know that's going to take a lot of work, but one of my missions, and I feel like one of my purposes, is being a good mom, because even when I read this book, some things are not relatable to me because I'm not a parent yet, but when I read these books, I'm like, you know what, I want to be a better parent. I don't want my kids to feel left out. I don't want my kids to feel a certain way. I want my kids to know that this is a safe space. I want my kids to know that they can come home, they can cry to their mom, they can make mistakes, they can, you know, I want to be that mom. You know, that's always my biggest prayer. You know, and I feel like Sihle taught me that also as well when I was reading when I was reading this book. You know, she talks about her relationship with her daughter, and she talks about how, you know, she never spoke ill, like her daughter's father is an absent dad, but she's never spoken ill. She allowed her daughter to make that choice. You know, she allowed her daughter to decide whether or not she wanted to have a relationship with her daughter. And then also, she's like, at some point she was overcompensating to her daughter, but she got to a point where she realized that it's okay to say no. It's okay for me to deprive her certain things. It's okay, like, it doesn't mean because certain things were done, certain mistakes were made and all of that, I have to pay for it by overcompensating for the rest of my life. No, I need to allow my child to grow. I need to allow this person to grow and all of that. So yeah, I really, 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 really loved this. I really loved this so much. And then there's a part where she speaks about how she sees how her mother has a relationship with her daughter, and how her mother is more compassionate, more soft. And at some point it triggered her, because it's like, how come when I was a child, when I did similar things, I wasn't treated with compassionateness, I wasn't treated with kindness? And you know what, I could relate to this a lot. You know, growing up, my mom was a strict mom. My mom was those moms that, you know, that mama ga Yvonne mangabe ni mema pagin nabafana, like my friends from primary knew when they see my mother they will run, because also my mom was a mom of a society. If she catches you doing something wrong, trust me, she will scold you, take you to your parents, lapo, you know. So that's how I grew up, in a very strict home, right? And then now when I see my siblings are like 7 years old, and listen, my siblings are living their best life. You know, my mom was those moms, like, you can't eat on the couch. You know, she was very conscious. She was those people that, you're not gonna eat on the couch, I'm gonna put a blanket for you, sit down and eat your food, then finish, go wash your hands first. Now my siblings are jumping on couches, you know. And my mom was those moms, you can't just jump on my bed with white linen. You know, now my siblings are able to do that. And when I saw that, I was like, old age is catching up with you. But then when I read this book by Sihle, I was like, actually, this makes sense. You know, also, as we evolve, people respond to things differently, and people now know better. And because people now know better, they do things differently, in as much as it may trigger us. But it's important that we learn that when a person knows better, a person does better. And people have a different way of treating people. You know, and it's said that sometimes we don't understand it. It's like, but all I needed from you was a hug. Why couldn't you give me a hug? Back then, they will tell you that back then you needed to be tough. You needed to know that, you know what, there's no time to cry. There's no time to slack and all of that. Now, like, we live in a society whereby, you know what, things are a bit at ease. You know, people are more advanced. You know, people know about therapy, people know about mental health and all of those things. So, like, it really touched my heart, and I wrote myself a lovely note. I'm gonna come back to it. This chapter is preparing me to be a better mom to my children that I have not met, like, literally. So guys, I enjoyed this. You know. And then she talks about how sometimes all we ever needed was our parents saying, I hear you, and I'm here, and you are safe, you know. And we never got that. I say we because I know there's parts in this book that I relate to a lot, you know. And yeah, you know, sometimes people think we want a lot, but sometimes all we are asking for is saying, hey, I'm here, it's safe, you're home, you know. And I really love how she was vulnerable with her relationship with her mother, how beautiful and also imperfect it is, you know, and how they've had to do certain things, and as much as she feels there's certain things her mother did that hurt her, but also she recognized that there's certain things that she did to hurt her mom, and she's constantly apologized as she does the work. And one of the things that I love about this book, she talks about healing as a journey and never having a destination. You don't arrive in healing. You don't arrive, because as you evolve, as you grow, you realize that there's new triggers, there's new issues, and sometimes you think you've dealt with certain things, but you have not dealt with them completely and fully, so yeah, man, guys, this is a beautiful book. I really loved it. If you're on a healing journey and you want to confront certain things, trust me, it's important that it's important that you get this book. It's a starting point. It's a good starting point. And then she talks about, I also realized how the trauma influenced how I showed up in romantic relationships. I was desperate to be loved and accepted, so much that I tolerated treatment and behaviors I never should have. I kept these experiences to myself because saying it out loud to someone else would confirm that I'm too afraid to confront. I wasn't making choices that reinforced the belief that I was not worthy, that men can come to me, take what they want and when they want it, and I was not worthy of getting what I needed in return. And this is another important thing that actually touched my heart and my soul, that like Mjolo will expose you guys. Mjolo will expose your traumas. Like Mjolo will expose, like, guys, Mjolo will, like, what, like, where is this coming from? Like, Mjolo will expose your traumas and relationships in general. Like she said, her issues with male counterparts, like for instance, she went through rape. Like when I read that, my heart was gutted. She went through rape, right? And then she's like, so obviously because she had to she kept it to herself for so long and all of that, right? And then when she kept it to herself for so long and this thing affected her. One, it affected how she felt about sex, and then also it affected her in terms of how she showed up in relationships, because she thought, okay, men are the only ones that should be happy. Men show up and take whatever they need, and then life goes on. And you know what? I don't get to get what I need. I don't get to express what I need and all of that, And yeah, man, it just also made me learn that trauma does impact how we relate with people. It impacts how we show up in relationships. Like, you will see your traumas and your issues in how you relate with other people. In friendships, you will see it. In your relationship with your parents, with your children, you will see it. And usually when you become a parent, I think it surfaces a lot, because as I was reading and seeing her relationship with her daughter, her relationship with her mother, I was learning quite a lot, because I'm seeing that, okay, there's a similar trait, but I see that she's correcting this and that, and wow, guys, wow. And then also she talks about how it's important to have an understanding that being alone, guys, don't confuse aloneness and stillness with loneliness. Being alone and in a still season, it doesn't mean you're lonely. It doesn't mean that you're lonely. It simply means that that's the time for you to think. That's the time that God has allocated for you to just be. It's important that you embrace that season of aloneness, embrace that season of stillness, because sometimes we think, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. Why am I not dating? There's something wrong with me. Why am I not getting married? Why am I not doing this? There's nothing wrong with you. It's okay to be alone. Do not confuse aloneness and stillness with loneliness, because it's going to cost you. You're going to walk around thinking you're lonely, and you're going to try and fill that void and that gap, and you're going to fill it with the wrong things, the wrong people, and you're going to end up accumulating more trauma. So don't confuse stillness with loneliness. Ne? And get it, guys. And then also I love how also she speaks about she spoke about a situation whereby she was going to get lobolad, and then she had this aunt who was just trying to control everything and was just trying to tell them what to do and all of these things. And when she explained how she felt and she explained how she stood up for her mom, for me that was really amazing, because I mean, many of the times we have people that want to control us. It's like, just because something successful or something big is happening, and excuse me, something big is happening, you want to be at the forefront. But where were you when I was down and out? Where were you when my mother needed this? Where were you when my mother was going through it all? So I really loved that as well. And then she talks a lot also about a situation where she hasn't been lucky with friendships, you know, but now she has a really small circle but good quality of friends, right? So she talks about how at the time excuse me, at the time she had this friend whom everything was going great and all of that, right? And then this friend wrote an article, sent it to her. Then she commented, she said, "Oh friend, that's a great article." And then after saying that's a great article, she said, "Please mind that fixing spellings." Then the friend never spoke to her. And then after a while, the friend called her and told her how, like, apparently she was crying and how that damaged her, it sent her off the edge, that she corrected her spelling and all of that. And she listened to the friend, empathized with her, and then she asked a very important question to say, "Were you hurt by me correcting your spellings? On many occasions, we've given each other's work and we've read it, we've corrected it. What's the issue now?" You know? And apparently she wasn't able to answer the question. And then she said to her, "Think about it and come back to me." And she never came back. And then when she explained that whole narrative, also she said, it's always important to note that some people will be hurt by whoever hurt them, and then they're gonna come to you and make it your problem. They're gonna come to you and bleed on you. They're gonna come to you and try and blame you for the issues that they already have. So it's always important that you don't go around dishing out apologies that are not valid. You know, you can't account for things you didn't do. Don't give apologies for issues you didn't cause, you know. And I think it made me take a conscious decision that I'm a person who loves mending. I love peace, I love forgiveness and all of these things. But I'm like, you know what? I've made a conscious decision. I'm not going to mend things I didn't break, because when you start mending things you didn't break, or when you start taking accountability for things you didn't do, or when you start apologizing for things you didn't do, you're inviting trauma. You're inviting trauma. You're traumatizing yourself, because once you're done mending that thing or taking accountability, you find that you now have a burden, you know. So it's important that when you say sorry, you understand why you're saying sorry. You're able to acknowledge, you're able to account, you're able to say, actually, I did this thing incorrectly, you know. And then I also love, guys, okay, we've come to an end of reviewing it. I just don't want to go verbatim on it, because guys, I really need you guys to read this book. I really need every black child, every female to get this book. Like, if I had millions, I would buy every South African female this book, because it's that good, it's that amazing, right? And then I love how she speaks also as well, how we are raised to say not agreeing or saying no means that you are disrespectful. Guys, it doesn't mean that I'm famous for upsetting adults. I would say no, and not because I'm being disrespectful, but because I don't agree. And not agreeing doesn't mean you're being disrespectful. Not agreeing means you have a different opinion, and that's absolutely okay. And then so I really learned quite a lot. My healing journey has started. I'm confronting certain things, I'm letting go of certain things. It's really an amazing book, and I'm realizing that I'm human, I'm soft, you know what, it's okay, I'm intelligent, I'm this and I'm that, but also in all of that, I'm human, I'm sensitive, you know. I'm not a rock, you know. I deserve soft love. I deserve soft life. I deserve soft love in my relationships and my friendships. I deserve soft in my workplace. I deserve soft in my leadership. I deserve soft in everything that I do, because I am human, you know. And yeah, man, I just really learned quite a lot, and it's quite a journey. I'm gonna go back every now and then and just remind myself of these beautiful lessons that I've learned from this book. But yeah, this has been such a beautiful book, and yeah, if you want to heal, your starting point is here. And thank you guys for watching. Do not forget to be loved, do not forget to be light, and God bless you.